Welcome to MyLegislator.tv. We're here with Representative Scott Maartin, who represents the Norman area as well as some down south and to the west. Describe your district for everybody who might not know.
Sure. House District 46 is a large chunk of Norman, south of Highway 9, the west side of Norman, and in addition to that I have Noble, almost all of Noble, and almost all of Newcastle. So good chunk of Cleveland and McLean County.
Very easy to get a hold of. Shoot him an email, call up to Morgan, his LA, here at the Capitol. Your office always willing to talk to your constituents.
Absolutely, Daniel. Matter of fact, one of the things that we've instituted the last few years here is to bring a little bit of technology into the process. So we have a laptop that we take with us about wherever we go. In addition to that, our phone. And so on the weekends, evening times, I have my laptop and my phone accessible to me to where I can access those emails, which I personally respond to those. Not everybody does that, but it's just easier for me, and I like to hear from constituents that way.
Well, Scott, and I want to thank you for how you've responded with us. It was just like instant messaging, right there on the ball, and we're really happy to have you with us today. And a special topic today at a time where alternative fuels are huge on everybody's mind, and we being an energy state. Scott, you've introduced a bill that is quite interesting. Why don't you talk to us about it?
Sure. Last summer, when we were all paying $4 a gallon for gas, I began to think about alternative fuels. Certainly in Oklahoma, we have a great heritage when it comes to oil and natural gas. If we were to build out all of our wind infrastructure, we'd probably be one of the top 5 producers of wind energy. So we're good there. Solar's another alternative, and biofuels is another alternative that we're exploring right now. But there was one option out there that certainly could provide a lot more energy than wind, solar, and biofuels all combined, and that's nuclear. And so I just started to research and started to think about what could we do to incentivize nuclear power in Oklahoma. And just so happened that the Speaker of the House was looking at different forms of alternative energy, and he was interested in this. And so between discussions that we had, I had the chance to go with him on a tour of the nuclear power plant in Arkansas. Mm-hmm. Fantastic opportunity. Matter of fact, I think people are shocked. They'd be shocked to know that 4 hours from the Capitol here in Oklahoma City, there's a reactor in Arkansas, Texas, and Kansas. So nuclear power is not in some foreign land. It's right next door. Matter of fact, in the United States, we're really in the minority. There's only 16 states that don't have nuclear power. There's 104 reactors across the United States. So this is not a new technology. It's not a new energy source. Matter of fact, 20% of all energy in the United States is nuclear. In Arkansas, 75% of all of their power comes from that one plant. You look at other countries who have certainly developed this technology. France is a leader in that area. 80% of their power comes from nuclear. And they're also experimenting, because one of the big concerns you have right now is the waste product. And they're experimenting with recycling the waste. Okay. So there's some really neat things going on right now.
Well, you're a husband, you're a father, a young man, expecting grandchildren, great-grandchildren. Me, Joe Q. Public, I hear nuclear and I think bomb. I think Hiroshima. I think a lot of negative stuff. And your heart's in that direction. Through your research, educate us a little bit. What about that? What about the future of our kids? What about those fears that we may have?
And that's really probably the biggest hurdle to get over right now is perception. Certainly, people have this idea of, like you said, a bomb. When you talk about a nuclear power plant, there's no plutonium-grade waste. Okay, so there's not a fear. There's need not be a fear of the plant blowing up. Then you think about, well, 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl is something that occurred. Well, design standards between Russia and the United States are quite a bit different. So we need not fear about that also. Matter of fact, both Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island were operator error. 3 Mile Island, the problem that occurred there was contained just as they anticipated that the plant should work. And so there was no problem there. But people certainly still are concerned. And that's why the bill that I filed is really to begin the dialogue of nuclear power in Oklahoma. It's not to force this down anybody's throat. It's just to begin talking about it And also, one of the challenges that these plants have run into is regulation. Matter of fact, I've heard it takes anywhere between 8 to 10 years from start to finish to get one of these plants up and going. Half of that time is just getting through the regulatory hurdles. So what we've done with my bill is to make the Corporation Commission the go-to point agency for all of these regulatory issues, which in Oklahoma that makes sense. They already oversee the other forms of energy that we have, and so that would be a natural thought for them.
Well, are there the biggest hurdles yet? What we have seen so far at the Capitol this year is you've made it through committee. What type of nuances have you heard on Capitol Hill according to your bill, and what do you feel as it progresses now through the process?
You know, the bill not only contains the regulatory issues, but there's a cost recovery mechanism, which some people have had some questions about, and I'm matter of fact, sitting down on Monday just to talk with both sides and trying to work out some of the nuances there. We've also have put in the bill a task force to look at incentives for nuclear power. A plant is going to cost at least a minimum of $8 billion. So it's not a cheap prospect here, and one thing that we've looked at is at least considering some tax incentives, and the task force would do that. I have, as people have heard about my bill, begin to talk about it and think about it, I've received a good number of emails, and here again, some of those are those old perceptions that we have. This is really not a new power source. Mm-hmm. It's been around for decades now. Matter of fact, the plant over in Arkansas actually went online in the early 70s, okay?
Wow, yeah.
Well, it came on about the time I was born. I'm 37. Well, lots changed in the last 37 years. You know, I used to be my dad's remote control. Had to go change the channel on the TV. Used to actually have to crank the window down to get it, to get the window down. Technology has greatly expanded since then. We're into third, fourth, fifth generations of nuclear power plants. They're even considering putting some of these underground. So that would help prevent people who are concerned about possible terrorist attacks. You no longer have an object above ground that somebody could fly into. So there's really some neat things happening here. And if we're going to really have a serious talk about diversifying our energy here in Oklahoma, getting away from foreign oil, and also reducing the cost of energy in Oklahoma, then I really think that nuclear should be part of the overall package. Doesn't mean that we get rid of oil, natural gas. Certainly, we are net exporters of natural gas right now, which is fantastic. Mm-hmm. And we need to only capitalize on that, thinking about possibly CNG vehicles, which the Speaker has taken a lead on this year by giving some incentives for CNG vehicles. And certainly we need to also continue to look at alternative fuels like I've already mentioned, wind and solar and biofuels, and not to mention conservation. That's something that we need to consider also.
Well, Scott, like many of us, last summer paying so much for gasoline, alternative fuels hit a button. And it's all about dialogue. That's how we become educated. Thus, mylegislator.tv trying to bring you education through the people who know and who are making our laws. Representative Maartin, thank you very much for sharing with us, and contact Representative Maartin with any questions, concerns, or ideas that you may have concerning his bill. It is House Bill what?
1750.
House Bill 1750, okhouse.gov. Look up House Bill 1750 and continue your education process. Thanks a lot, Representative, for being with us.
Thank you very much. Glad to.